The past year has been one of unprecedented challenges and tragedy for Israelis and Palestinians alike. 2023 began with the Netanyahu government's proposed judicial overhaul, the increasing normalization of far-right extremism and acceleration of West Bank annexation threaten the very foundations of Israeli democracy and prospects for addressing the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Through the spring and summer of 2023, Israel's social cohesion, the shared values that undergird the U.S.-Israel relationship, and Israel's ties with diaspora Jews were pushed to the limits like never before. And then the unthinkable happened. The atrocities committed by Hamas on October 7 not only left Israelis traumatized, but also challenged a core promise of the state to keep Jews safe, upended basic assumptions about Israel's security, and sowed fear and mistrust across Israeli society. Israel was thrust into a war it did not choose in order to defend its citizens, return those taken captive, and ensure Hamas never again has the ability to use Gaza as a staging ground for terror and rocket attacks. But as the war has moved forward, a vision for the future has not. Hamas remains in Gaza along with Israeli hostages. The war has wrought a tragic humanitarian crisis and devastated Palestinian lives and livelihoods. And rising extremism among both Israelis and Palestinians continues to pose a mounting threat to the future of both peoples in the region. All of these events have left American Jews in the crossfire. Amidst the heightened protests and posturing of activists and politicians alike, we live in an environment where it is difficult to find credible information and clear-headed analysis. And the conflict is so often framed as a zero-sum game that pits identity against values. Israel Policy Forum disrupts this paradigm. Guided by our commitment to a better future for Israelis and Palestinians alike, we offer constructive policy analysis and recommendations and educational content attuned to the complex reality on the ground, while recognizing the basic truth that neither people can or should go anywhere else. Following October 7, we witnessed a surge in demand for our content online in Washington and Jewish communities, where we regularly partner with local and national organizations across the country. Our flagship IPF Atid program has become among the fastest growing, most dynamic and diverse platforms for young American Jews seeking nuance, connection, and informed and respectful debate about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and the future of a secure, Jewish, democratic Israel. Israelis and Palestinians and their supporters abroad have never been more polarized. October 7 and the ensuing war have exacerbated hopelessness among Israelis and Palestinians that the other side will ever be willing to accept their legitimacy or even basic humanity. But this upheaval also brings an unprecedented opportunity for effective U.S. leadership toward bolstering Israel's regional acceptance and charting a viable long-term path toward a future that enables Palestinian aspirations to be fulfilled and Israel's paramount security needs to be safeguarded. In this moment, our voice has never been more essential.
Shani, great job there as always, and thanks for getting all the Atid folks together here. For those of us who had the chance to meet with a lot of you younger folk, I'm 63, so a lot of you are much younger. Thanks for everything you're doing. We're really so blessed to have you. I'm David Sherman. I have the honor of being the chair of Israel Policy Forum, and I'm so delighted to be here tonight. I just want to share with you, there are a couple folks who've been super helpful on the fundraising and putting this together. A lot who's over here, and Lizzie Derringer, who I can't see because of the lights, but Lizzie's here. I see you back there. Thank you for everything you've done. You've been phenomenal. Phenomenal. And I also want to let you know, obviously we're here to, it's too loud. By the way, I love that. I hear that from my kids too. It's too loud. Basically, it's their way of saying, Dad, just be quiet, which I love. We obviously wouldn't be here tonight if it wasn't for my good friend, Alan Solow. And Alan, by the way, I'm not sure this is totally appropriate, but I do want to say I wouldn't be standing here if it wasn't for Alan Solow. Although it does sound like I'm Daniel Solow's brother and David Solow's brother, that's not really the case. Alan was the one who introduced me to Israel Policy Forum a number of years ago, and Alan, I can't thank you enough for everything that you've done. You're a dear friend, and it goes so far beyond our work in the Jewish community. And we're not only here to honor Alan, but we're also here to learn a little bit more about Israel Policy Forum as well. I want to do a quick shout out to Susie Gelman, my predecessor, who unfortunately is not here because she has COVID, but she, along with Alan's, she, by the way, unbelievable. If I could tell you, she's a force of nature. What she did for Israel Policy Forum over the last number of years, unbelievable. And with Alan as her vice chair, we're so blessed to be where we are today. Okay, I've had this role for a year. And I'm thinking back a year ago, literally last May, and we had this cute little thing going on called judicial reform. And I'm telling you, I freaking long for judicial reform right now. I really do. I mean, like, I remember thinking, this is the craziest thing. What else could possibly be worse than this? The country's totally, just struggling. And then October 7th happened. And I don't think any of us could have imagined the worst thing that could happen to the Jewish community since the Holocaust, and obviously to Israel, to the Jewish people, and the fact that we're sitting here 7.5 months later. And honestly, I hate to say it, sometimes I feel like no end in sight. There are 138, I probably have the number wrong, of hostages to be determined still in captivity. There are so many innocent Gazans who are unfortunately caught in the crossfires. And it's just such an incredibly painful situation. And then on top of it, I'm sure it's always there, but I had no idea how much this would impact folks' view of Jews, anti-Semitic, anti-Zionistic, and I'm all for debate, and we'll get into this. One of the greatest things about IPF, we are nuanced. We are comfortable holding two truths at once, but apparently a lot of people aren't, and it is so painful for so many of us. So I feel so blessed to have a home with Israel Policy Forum. And again, it's funny, Alan, I owe you another thank you, because being in this role for last year has really given me an outlet to be at least in a place where I feel like I'm with like-minded people in a space where I feel like we can have really constructive dialogue and make real progress. Just want to go on record. I'd love to share, sound a little name droppy here, but I had the opportunity through IPF to meet with the Secretary of State within a month of the conflict. We were the group out there talking about the day after, literally, I don't really know the answer, Dave, within a couple weeks. I'm trying to think about, and by the way, what are you hearing today? Everybody's saying, where's our plan for the day after, you think? SURE is here, humanitarian aid. SURE, probably within 2 weeks of the conflict, 3 weeks, SURE hosted a conference saying, whether you love the Palestinians, don't like the Palestinians, here's why humanitarian aid is so incredibly critical. It's morally right, it's the right thing to do, and it's really smart while you're going after it. So I feel so blessed to be with so many talented people. And we are the group that's all about security, but we're also about nuance, we're about moral clarity, and David and many others will get into that in a few minutes. So real quick, number one, our professionals, unbelievable. I just mentioned Shira, David, Michael. I don't even want to, there's too many, and Lizzie warned me not to mention names because I'm going to leave people out. It is the most impressive staff. And then on top of it, our lay leadership. If you get bored, go on our website and look at our board. We have, in addition to Alan, we have another former head of the Council of Presidents. We have former heads of AJ Committee, ADL, Birthright. Joe Camphor just joined us, former head of JFNA. We have heads of Birth. I mean, it's so impressive, and I feel so blessed to be part of this group. So let me just finish with one last comment. Thank you to all of you. None of this happens without all of you in this room. You are the folks who enable us to do the work that's been so impactful, and this is why policymakers turn to us and turn to me often to reach out to, like, Michael Koppel in the middle of the night and say, how can I handle this issue? So thank you for everything that you do. We're going to do a video here, if I'm not mistaken, I believe, with Mr. Solow. And I do want to mention one thing. Unfortunately, next to our Consul General, who's so nice to be, thank you so much for being here, and our congressional representatives, which will be introduced in a bit. You'll notice a chair next to the Congresswoman and next to the Consul General with a blue ribbon on it, and that's to commemorate those folks who are not with us. And we pray for a speedy return of all those folks. So thank you for everything you're doing.
My Israel story begins as a child. I was raised in what I think was a typical Reform congregation in the late 1950s through the 1960s, but it certainly got raised in my consciousness when the Six-Day War took place around my 13th birthday. And I can remember intently watching television where they were showing the United Nations debates, and I was exposed to the Israeli diplomat Abba Eban, who defended Israel beautifully during that time, and certainly increased my pride, I think, in being Jewish, and my close affiliation and care about Israel. My freshman year in college, I met a woman named Andrea Lavin, who subsequently became my wife about 2 years later. She had an Israeli flag hanging above her bed, and she was quite certain that she was going to make Aliyah when she completed her college education. I was not that eager to make the move to Israel, but I certainly became closer to the notion that Israel was going to be an important part of my life going forward. And so when we had children, we decided pretty quickly that we wanted to take them to Israel. And we went on a family trip for 2 weeks to Israel. It was during the Lebanon conflict. And we got a taste of the beautiful parts of Israel and also the not so beautiful parts of Israel. When I finished law school in 1979, Andrea and I moved back to Chicago, and I decided to get involved in something that I cared about, which was the Jewish world. And so I became affiliated with an agency that's now known as the Jewish Council for Youth Services, where I eventually became the president, and that led me to the board of the Jewish Community Centers of Chicago, where I rose through the ranks and ultimately to the Jewish Community Centers Association of North America, where I became the board chair. At the same time as I was going through that process, I was becoming more deeply involved in the work of the Jewish Federation of Metropolitan Chicago, and I became active in the Government Affairs Committee at the Jewish Federation and eventually at the JCRC. And in connection with that work, I began to visit with politicians in order to make the case not only for the support of Israel, but for the support of other activities of our Federation agencies, such as our Consul for Jewish Elderly and our Mount Sinai Hospital. In the end, it led me to a fortuitous relationship with a state senator who lived in my neighborhood. In the early 2000s, he decided that he was going to run for the United States Senate and reached out to me to discuss whether or not I would be willing to help him. That turned out to be the beginning of a long journey that I had with Barack Obama. I had the pleasure of working with him to introduce him to the Jewish community all over the state of Illinois during 2003 and 2004. In early 2006, I accompanied him on his first visit to Israel. And then in 2007 and 2008, I worked very actively on his presidential campaign. At about the same time that he was elected President of the United States, I was asked to chair the Conference of Presidents of major American Jewish organizations. And so that began another aspect of my connection with Israel, because in the context of that work, I spent a lot of time with Israeli leadership and got familiar with the leadership of all of the various organizations in the United States that were interested in the Israel-U.S. relationship. My Israel Policy Forum story really starts during the years of the Obama administration, when both as the chair of the Conference of Presidents and then subsequent to my term there, I was responsible for helping to organize meetings between American Jewish leadership and members of the Obama administration from time to time, including the President of the United States. And in the context of that work, I became familiar with Israel Policy Forum and became friendly with Peter Joseph, who was then the chairman, and with David Halperin, who was the executive director. And I began to learn more about the role that Israel Policy Forum could play in promoting a two-state solution and in helping advance the U.S.-Israel relationship and in fact strengthen it. And so Peter and David recruited me once I joined the board and started to go to board meetings. I became more and more convinced that Israel Policy Forum had a special place that it could carve out, that we had a unique voice, that we had an important level of credibility, both with government leaders in whatever administration would be in office, as well as in Congress, and that we also had great reach into the American Jewish community to be a leader in increasing the knowledge and to help build upon the notion that a two-state solution was the only way forward, and that together we could help move American Jewish leadership in that direction. Israel Policy Forum has given me an outlet in which to pursue my interests. This is the place that I'm most comfortable. And that's because I think that we are very focused on what is, to me, the most important issue of our time, which is how it is that we can have Israelis live in a secure, Jewish, democratic state. To me, that is the essence of the Zionist dream. And in order to do that, we need to make sure that Israel has borders that are recognized, that are internationally accepted, and are secure. Israel Policy Forum understands that there is a way forward, that we can dream it, and it can become a reality, and that is to take control of our own destiny, follow through really on the policies of Ben-Gurion, and recognize that we need a two-state approach and a two-state solution. I've had a great privilege of working with several of our board chairs, with Peter Joseph, with Susie Gelman, and now with my good friend from Chicago, David Sherman. And there have been highlights in all of those relationships. But I think the thing that sticks out to me more than anything else is the consistency of our approach, the constancy of our belief, our focus on what is really important, and our ability to try to drive the conversation in a meaningful way.
Hello, everyone. My name is David Halperin. I'm the CEO of Israel Policy Forum. I want to thank you all for being here. I want to especially acknowledge Congresswoman Lauren Underwood and Jan Schakowsky. Former Ambassador to Canada Bruce Heyman, former Secretary of Commerce Penny Pritzker, and of course, the Consul General here in the Midwest representing Israel, Yinam Cohen. Thank you very much for being here. I want to add my thanks to our incredible board and staff led by Lissy Diringer and her team for the amazing feat of 2 events in 4 days in 2 cities. And of course, I want to thank Alan for agreeing to be honored, which is not the easiest thing to do. So about a dozen years ago, Israel Policy Forum was reborn. The organization had first been built in 1993 with the encouragement of Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, and our founding director, Jonathan Jacoby, is here with us tonight as well. Following the collapse of the Oslo peace process, the organization ultimately merged with the DC think tank. But after a few years, as you heard, our past board chair, Peter Joseph, began an effort to relaunch a new independent IPF, and he asked me to help to see if the idea might catch on. It was not at all clear that this new iteration of Israel Policy Forum was going to work out. So I remember being especially nervous when I met Alan Solow for the first time, alongside Peter for lunch in New York City. Alan was what we might call a kind of a big deal. He was chairman of the Conference of Presidents, friend and advisor to the President of the United States. For all I'm concerned, Alan was kind of like King of the Jews. So I thought how this meeting went could really make or break IPF's relaunch. And if Alan saw this effort as worth a go, or even better if he might join the fledgling effort, this new IPF might actually catch on and might have a chance. Well, thankfully, here we are. Alan didn't just join the effort, he joined the board. He didn't just join the effort, he helped guide through a strategic plan, the crafting of our governing documents, the sharpening of our message, the strategic aims of our programs, and all the while providing guidance and mentorship to me personally and to many members of our growing staff. Alan brought us the credibility, the experience, the knowledge, creativity we needed to unleash our potential. Today, our policy research is sought after by policymakers and covered in major media outlets. You've heard already about our role in promoting an improvement of the humanitarian situation in Gaza and the efforts to craft a viable day-after plan following this war. And we have many, many policy projects underway. In Washington, we are also sought after for our policy expertise. We recently mobilized Republicans and Democrats to oppose the downgrading of the U.S. security coordinator in Jerusalem, a critical position overseeing Israeli-Palestinian security cooperation in the West Bank, and we helped to craft a Senate bill to expand that effort, a bill that was introduced just 1 week before the October 7 attacks. Since October 7th, we've been a resource for the Jewish community and for young professionals in particular. In the past 7 months alone, we've convened 59 community programs, and remarkably, led in the last 7 months 215 programs for young professionals in 19 cities. It's truly been remarkable to watch. We're deepening the education of our community leaders when it comes to Israeli politics and the conflict, and our young professional program, IPF Atid, which you've heard so much about, is flourishing, providing an outlet for discussion and debate, and creating a vibrant young leadership community. Alan was really instrumental in the growth of Atid. He was the first guest speaker here at the Atid chapter in Chicago. And of course, as was mentioned, we have Atid leaders joining us from across the country as part of a leadership summit this weekend. If I can all embarrass you all and ask you to stand to be recognized, I really would appreciate it. Thank you all so very much. We've grown tremendously since Alan joined this fledgling effort, but there's so much more to do. We're at a perilous moment in Israel's fight against Hamas. 7 months into the war, nearly 8, Israeli hostages remain captive. Hamas leadership remains entrenched in their tunnels. Rockets continue to target Israeli cities. Gaza civilians are displaced and the humanitarian crisis is growing. And of course, U.S.-Israel tensions are rising. At IPF, we've long made the case that the Israeli-Palestinian conflict does not have a military solution. And today in this war, it's clear Hamas cannot be defeated by military means alone, and only with a political alternative and a viable plan for what comes after Hamas's military and governing capacity are destroyed will ensure victory. And as consequential as the last year's been, the next year, the decisions in war, diplomacy, and elections will be every bit as consequential. People are looking to IPF for guidance, for leadership, for credible information, for education, for ideas, and they're looking to us for nuance. And I know we're poised to provide all that and more. And we are here because Alan took a chance on an organization at its infancy. So I'm thankful that the lunch with Alan a dozen years ago went pretty well. And I'm grateful for all he's done for his organization, for me personally, and for all I know he will continue to do to ensure that we do not forget our goal, the goal of 2 states. And that feels distant today, and for many Israelis and Palestinians, it's difficult to even contemplate or mention amidst the simmering pain and anger and fear of this conflict, and that's understandable. But when it comes to finding a viable path forward, it will return as the path to ensure a secure Jewish democratic Israel that enables Palestinians to live with security, dignity, and opportunity in a state of their own. And IPF will make sure that's not forgotten, and we'll do all we can to overcome the challenges of these difficult days together and those still to come. So I want to thank all of you for your support of Alan and for your support of our work. And I want to thank Alan for your trust, your confidence, your mentorship, and your leadership. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you. Now please join me in watching some special tributes to our well-deserving honoree.
Congratulations, Alan, on this richly deserved award. Thank you for your lifelong leadership in support of a Jewish democratic state of Israel, a 2-state solution, and an unshakable bond between the United States and Israel. You are a gem, a mensch, and an extraordinary mentor, advisor, and friend. I'm grateful for all that you've given me in support and love and wisdom over the years. Congratulations again. No one deserves it more.
Hi, it's Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky, and I am so honored to be able to say a few loving words about my dear friend, Alan Solow. Alan has been not only a friend, but a real mentor to me. He is definitely my go-to person when I have questions about the Jewish community or policy questions. And I am sure that Barack Obama would pretty much say the same. He has been more than just a friend and a helper for Barack Obama, but he is there when we need help on these issues. Most recently, he has been helpful to me on the question of what is the definition, what should be the definition or not, of anti-Semitism. Do we need to put it in writing? And thank you, Alan, for all your help. I can always count on you to give me the advice that I need and the boost that I need. Thank you, and I love you. Congratulations for this fantastic and well-deserved award.
Hi, Alan. Charles here. Thank you for all the very wonderful things you've done to help IPF. Your tribute is more than well-deserved, and I honor you with the rest. God bless.
Alan, your wisdom, your practicality, your sense of humor, and your commitment to the mission of IPF has been a real foundation in its growth over the last few years. Thank you very much, and congratulations to you and your family.
Alan, Mazel Tov on your award. I'm so proud of you and everything you've done for Israel Policy Forum. I remember meeting you back in 2017, and you've taken me under your wing and been such an incredible mentor to me and a number of other Atidniks. IPF Atid is so grateful for you, for your support and everything you've done to help us grow and expand across the country. I love our relationship and all the time and effort you put towards mentoring young Jewish leaders and bringing them and getting them more involved in the community. Thank you for all you do.
Alan, you have been a true thought leader at Israel Policy Forum, going back to the strategic planning discussions we held in 2015. You always managed to cut to the chase and ask the important questions, and your sharp analysis elevates our deliberations and our decision-making. On a personal note, you have become a most treasured friend. Thank you for all that you continue to do to advance the prospects of peace in the Middle East, as elusive as that goal seems at present. Yasher Koach on being honored by Israel Policy Forum.
Alan, thank you for all you do for Israel Policy Forum. I always treasure your insights into the American Jewish community and your advice on policy issues, and perhaps most of all, your war stories from the Obama years. Congratulations on this well-deserved honor.
I've known Alan Solow for over 40 years. Over that period of time, I have had the privilege to work with him as his friend, as his colleague, and as his partner. As you all know, he is caring, compassionate, warm, brilliant, quick-witted, and always working collaboratively for the good of the greater community and always putting the community ahead of himself. I've worked with him on elections and also actively in the Jewish community, and have also had the opportunity to interact extensively with his wife, Andrea, and his two sons and their family, and know how much he cares about them and how they share great values which were inculcated by their parents.
Alan has the remarkable ability to offer the most nuanced and politically savvy counsel to the most sophisticated and powerful, while at the same time always being a fierce advocate for the aspirational and compassionate values of the Jewish people. My family has been blessed for decades by his wisdom, by Andrea's kindness, and her unbridled forthrightness. And when our kids were young, they were mentored through some of their most formative experiences in Israel by David and Daniel. Congratulations, Alan, on this most deserved award.
We're thrilled to be here today to be honoring Alan Solow, a good friend of ours that we're very excited to be receiving this recognition from the Israel Policy Forum. He and Andrea have been very instrumental in our lives, and we're excited to see them honored today.
You know, we've known the Solows and Alan for probably 40 years, and he has been such an example of how to share his knowledge and privilege with the greater community and the rest of the world. And it is humbling to have him as basically a mentor. Alan, you have been not only a mentor, but a father figure for all of us. We're so fortunate to have you and Andrea, and of course all of the Solows in our lives. We couldn't be prouder, and we're happy to be able to participate in this very important celebration. Congratulations.
Congrats.
Congrats.
Hi, Mom and Dad. We want to congratulate you on being honored by the Israel Policy Forum tonight. Dad, you've always set an amazing example for our family, both in terms of how to be a leader in the Jewish community, but also in terms of how to be a leader for our family.
Your leadership extends beyond our family to the entire world. Your work with Young Men's, JUF, JCCA, the Conference of Jewish Presidents, and so many other organizations is so inspiring and meaningful for us to watch and learn from. Thank you.
We also greatly appreciate your help as we raise our children to be proud to be Jewish and to be involved as community members in the Jewish community.
And Alan, through it all, you have such a calming presence when anything happens in Israel and our country, and it's just an amazing thing to see. And thank you for helping to, again, instill such strong Jewish values in us and in the next generation. And we look forward to hopefully all visiting Israel soon as a family.
Mazel tov.
Mazel tov. We love you.
So it's really hard to top that tribute. There's just one more letter I would like to read before we welcome our evening's honoree. And the letter reads as follows. To everyone gathered this evening, I want to join you in congratulating my good friend, Alan Solow, on this well-deserved honor. Alan and I go way back. He was one of the earliest supporters of my campaign for the U.S. Senate and accompanied me on my first trip to Israel in 2006. Later in the White House, I would turn to Alan for advice, often on Middle East policy, and deeply appreciated his perspective. Like all of you who are part of the Israel Policy Forum, Alan believes that a two-state solution is the surest path to a secure, democratic Israel. And while we certainly have our work cut out for us on that front, the future depends on people of conscience continuing to advocate for a just and lasting peace. After working with Alan for more than 2 decades, I know he won't rest until we get there, and I hope all of you won't either. Alan, thank you for your vision and your friendship, and congratulations again. I know Andrea and the rest of your wonderful family are incredibly proud. Signed, Barack Obama. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Alan Solow. David, Sherman. Let's take pictures. Okay. Thank you. We're going to take a quick photo here.
Okay.
Just 1 second. You should hold this, not me.
Yeah, what are you holding it for?
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Nice ball.
Even lovely.
Fit some golf balls in there, babe.
Here's your marks. Yeah, we can take those. In your phone. Don't leave without your phone. So you know you're getting old when one of the guests here tonight is your eye doctor, and one of the people featured in your film is your urologist. But here we are nevertheless. I want to begin by thanking David for the generous introduction, the wonderful video that was produced by the IPF team. It'll be a keepsake. I am so grateful to all of you for attending tonight and for your contributions to Israel Policy Forum. Our work is more important than ever now, so your support at this time is critical to promoting necessary discussions around the situation in Israel and the relationship that it has with the United States. I want to begin by thanking some folks who have made this wonderful evening possible. David Sherman, who doubles as our board chair, Lee Miller, Peter Kupferberg, and Marc Slutsky stepped up without hesitation to make the solicitations that have resulted in a remarkable financial success. Guys, your friendship is for a lifetime. Your willingness to enlist without hesitation is extremely gratifying. Our professional staff here at IPF is amazing. In connection with this event, David Halperin, Lissy Derringer, Becky Lipkin, Alad Raymond, and Jacob Gilman have all been incredibly helpful. I also want to take a moment to acknowledge my close partner in all of my IPF work over the years, Susie Gelman. Very sad she can't be here tonight, but I know she's watching on the live stream. Susie is a dear friend, a great leader, a deep thinker, a few other things too, a difference maker. We've been on this journey together, and I can assure you that I would not be here without her tonight. I also want to publicly acknowledge the incredible support I have received from my family over many years of my commitment to my day job, to politics, and in my efforts on behalf of the Jewish people. Andrea and I have been at this as partners in every way imaginable for some 52 years. She is the one who taught me what it means to be a Zionist, and her enduring engagement in our work has sustained me in every way imaginable. Our boys, David and Daniel, have been involved almost since the day they were born. And now with Brooke and Abby, they have been integral in challenging and refining my thinking and encouraging my involvement, all without complaint. Our family expanded almost 17 years ago when Scarlett arrived. Then came Samuel and Chloe, and now Marty. They too understand that these commitments are part of the family business. They are all engaged in their own ways. I am thrilled that they are here tonight to participate. Lastly, I want to acknowledge the presence of several public officials who are with us this evening: Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky, Congresswoman Lauren Underwood, former Secretary of State and now the U.S. Special Representative for Ukraine Economic Recovery, Penny Pritzker, former Ambassador Bruce Heyman, and my good friend Mike Strautmanis, a veteran of the Office of Public Engagement in the Obama administration. Enough of the thank yous. Now to the meat. It goes without saying that we are a very challenging time with respect to Israel. I've been involved for an extended period in the issues that we are confronting as a community today, so I want to take a few minutes tonight to speak bluntly about what I think are some key truths that should guide our conduct going forward. First, it is not 1938. The murders, rapes, and other atrocities carried out by Hamas on October 7th were brutal, inexcusable, despicable, and cannot be justified in any way. They are inhumane. Iran and its proxies, including Hezbollah, continue to be a serious threat. Even with all that being true, the Jewish people are no longer defenseless. We have a state of our own. That state happens to be the most powerful military force in the Middle East, and it has demonstrated its capabilities subsequent to October 7. Israel has the support of the most important country in the world, both politically and militarily, in the United States. And Israel's targeted response to Hamas has been widely supported by many countries. All of this reflects one of the key goals of modern Zionism. Jews are no longer left to be slaughtered without defense. Our support of Israel and our relationship with American leadership have helped make this worldwide Jewish project a success. Just last year, the Biden administration, for the first time for any country in the history of the world, issued a comprehensive national strategy to counter anti-Semitism.
While we must always remain vigilant and continue to engage in strong and accurate advocacy, it is not 1938, and we should not think that it is. This fact has implications for how Israel and its supporters need to approach the future while living in a land with a mix of, shall we say, interesting and sometimes dangerous neighbors. Second, there are roughly 15 million people living between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea. Yes, that river and that sea. Only about half are Jews. I've got news for you. Neither the Israelis nor the Palestinians are going to physically leave in significant numbers, nor will they abandon their dreams of national self-determination. If anybody understands that, it should be the Jewish people. We were, for the most part, off the land for some 2 millennia, and yet our dream survived. The Palestinians are no less human than Jews. Why would we think they would behave differently? The Tanakh reminds us that we are all created in the image of God. That means we must find some way to live together because the neighborhood is not changing. Third, the status quo is not sustainable. If October 7 demonstrates anything, it is that the so-called situation cannot be successfully managed with insincere efforts to anesthetize the Palestinian population with unfulfilled commitments and fantasies and mere economic inducements. If we were honest, we would acknowledge that we knew it would never work. And now we know more clearly than ever that it cannot. All of this has clear implications for the future of Israel. And I am so proud that Israel Policy Forum is at the forefront of helping to promote solutions that will lead to a secure Jewish and democratic Israel. There is no option but to recognize that we must find a way to live with the Palestinians and our other neighbors, both because it is our obligation as Jews to treat other human beings with dignity and because it is in our self-interest to do something other than what has not worked for decades. Nobody should be under the fantasy that we have ever had perfect security. October 7 happened. The first and second intifadas occurred. The wars in Lebanon were not imaginary. Terror attacks occurred despite incredible efforts to minimize them. I will grant you that Israel does not have exceptional partners for peace, to say the least. Nevertheless, Israel's constant incursion on Palestinian territory through settlement encroachment, its encouragement of Palestinian political movements to compete with one another, and the failure to capitalize on the Saudi peace initiative of now many years ago as the opening of a discussion, all reflect choices that Israel, often with the support of American Jewry, have made. We need to move now, without hesitation, toward 2 states for 2 peoples. It won't happen overnight. It will initially require separation and then nurturing and building of Palestinian institutions and capabilities. That is in Israel's interest. If we look at the situation honestly, we know there is no other answer. And because we know that, we cannot use Palestinian intransigence, lack of cooperation, and even terror as an excuse not to do the smart thing, the right thing. Now, the good news is that we can do this from a position of strength. It's not 1938. We have fulfilled the Zionist dream. The Jewish people can control our own destiny, but we must seize the moment and not let events overtake us. Our efforts to close our eyes to reality have let others dictate the pace and outcome of events. This must come to an end. One final thing. American Jews have an important role to play here. Yes, we don't vote in Israel. Our children, for the most part, do not serve in the IDF. But through all my life, I have been reminded that we are one people. Kol Yisrael Aravim Zeh B'zeh, that all Jews are responsible one for the other, that Israel is the nation state of the Jewish people, that the support of the diaspora is critical for Israel. And I personally believe that the future of Judaism requires a strong bond and mutually beneficial relationship between those who live in the land and those who are elsewhere. That means that we have a stake in the outcome of the part of the Jewish drama that is playing out in our lifetime. Your support tonight of Israel Policy Forum makes a strong statement that we deeply believe in an Israel that is secure, Jewish, and democratic, and that we will work ceaselessly to make that ever more true. I am deeply grateful for all of you for attending this event, including my friend Yinam Cohen, the General Consul General here in the Midwest, who I know represents the State of Israel well, and we're delighted to have him at Israel Policy Forum tonight. I thank you so much for being here. I look forward to working with you in the years to come. Am Yisrael Chai.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shani Reichman, the director of IPF Atid here at Israel Policy Forum. That's the Young Professionals program you've heard so much about. So you can all consider this your official invitation to come find me if you, your children, or your grandchildren might be interested in getting involved. With that, it is an honor to welcome our two guests from Israel, Major General Noam Tibon and my colleague, Dr. Shira Efron.
Is this working? Okay. Hi, everyone. I am so delighted and fortunate to be here with you to celebrate and honor Alan Solow. Even the weather is celebrating you. Really, I mean, when is it so nice in Chicago? And welcome to Major General Tibon, or should we do it Israeli style? Can I call you Noam?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Great. I also want to acknowledge and welcome Gali, your wife, who, as we saw in the video, is a hero on her own right. So I think, Noam, very few people in Israel sort of embody both the personal and the national of what happened on October 7th and since then. And you're one of those people. And we saw a lot of people in this room are familiar with what, you know, your story on October 7th. We saw a tiny glimpse in that video, but others are not. Can you share a little bit with us? How did October 7th look from your perspective?
Yes, but first of all, I want Ellen to thank you for everything that you did for the State of Israel. You are a true Zionist, and I salute you. And thank you all for your help and your support for the State of Israel in this difficult time. This is very, very important for us. On October 7, my wife Gali and I woke up early in the morning in Tel Aviv, and basically we went to swim in the Mediterranean Sea, which we have beautiful beaches in Tel Aviv. 6:30 in the morning, we were in the middle of the swimming when we heard the sirens, and you know, I remember talking with Gali and asked, you know, what to do, and I said, we are in the middle of nowhere. Let's finish the swimming, and then 7:15, we entered our car. I opened my cellular phone, and I got a message from my son Amir, which basically said, Dad, there are terrorists inside Kibbutz Nahal Oz. At that time, I can still talk with him, and I called him immediately, and I gave him the best direction I can. I said, Amir, close all the windows, lock the doors, get into the safe room, lock the door from the inside, be quiet, I'm sending the military. And Gali and I speed to our home, which is about 10 minutes drive, and I'm chatting to the chief of staff, the head of the Southern Command and the division commander, and basically telling them there are terrorists inside Kibbutz Nahal Oz. The only one who answered me was Herzia Levi. 7:22 in the morning, he said, we know. The chief of staff, yeah. And we came home, and in my brain, I thought, I served so many years in the military, I can trust the military. By my heart told me I have to go there to see that everything is okay. So I changed very fast. I didn't even think, because I have a pair of old uniform in my house, I didn't wear them. And I took my pistol. And then Gali, my wife, told me a very smart thing. She said, "No, let me drive for you, because you will need both hands to call the military, and maybe if you will need to use your weapon, so you will have two hands." And I said, "Great idea, come." And we are speeding like hell south. The next text message around 7:30 in the morning from Amir. They are shooting on our porch. I think there is a terrorist inside our house. And I gave him the same direction. Be quiet, lock the door from the inside. By the way, he was right, because 7:30 in the morning, more than 150 terrorists enter kibbutz Nachal Oz. They went directly, they had a very good intelligence, and they went directly to the house of Ilan Fiorentino, the head of the security of the kibbutz. He is my son neighbor. The first battle with Ilan, this brave guy, was 7:30 in the morning, and he was the first one to be killed at the entrance of his house in kibbutz Nachal Oz. And we have pictures from terrorist cameras on my son's porch, which means one wall distance between my son and my two granddaughters. And I'm telling Amir, be quiet. And we are speeding like hell. I retired from the military 8 years ago, and I'm trying to call everyone whom I know in the military. Nobody is answering. From Ashkelon, we are the only vehicle on the road. And then we meet the war near Shderot, near kibbutz Nir Am. And we are speeding alone on the road, and then we saw something just like a movie. We saw a police car standing in the middle of the highway, and on both sides, police officers are shooting against a white pickup. Later on, we understood that this belonged to the Hamas. And we are speeding towards this fight, and one of the policemen is turning and telling me, go away, go away. And we stop on the side of the road, and Gali and I, we are talking, what to do? We thought maybe we go through the field. We know this area very well. It's a matter of seconds. Suddenly, from the bushes, a young couple is jumping, wearing, just like for a party, and they're running into the fire. Very dangerous. So we open the door and we shout to them, come in, come in. They enter the car. We give them water. We ask them, where are you from? And they said, from Oranit, somewhere near Tel Aviv. And we said, what are you doing here? They said, we were in a party. Terrorists came. They slaughtered everybody. And they were afraid, like they said, come down. We are taking care of you. And then we decided that we cannot leave them there because they are going to be killed. We did a U-turn, and we took them back to Ashkelon. We saw a police car, and we left them there. We saved their life. And we are talking a lot about values. Values is something which you have inside, and you have, it guided you to do the right thing in seconds. And then we are trying to do, to take a different road east of Shderot. Time is running, and we are driving, and there is another police checkpoint near kibbutz Brur Chayil. 2 police cars are blocking the road. And I have to tell you that on that day, none of the IDF plans and orders worked. But the police order to block the area of a terror attack worked very good. We lost 61 brave police officers on that day, but they blocked the Hamas plan to take those pickups and go to Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, Ashkelon, and made terror attacks all over Israel. And this was very important. But we are coming, and we are, I take my card as a retired general and said, please let me go. My son has a terrorist inside in his house. And they said, no way. And I'm begging, and Gali is crying, no way. And then, sometimes you need something to ring your bell, to change your way of thinking. One of the police officers who understood who am I said, Noam, don't worry. The military is taking care of the situation. And I already knew that nothing is working. And we understood we are alone. So we took the jeep, we bypassed this checkpoint through the fields. Near Sderot, there were another police checkpoint. We just rushed through the checkpoint. They pointed their guns on us. We opened the windows and we shout, we are Israelis, don't shoot. And then we came to Sderot main junction. And I served 35 years in the military. I started the Special Forces, Sayat Matkal. I joined the First Lebanon War. I was the 202 battalion commander. I was the head of Hebron during the Intifada. I saw bodies in my life. This is part of my profession. But something like this I never saw in my lifetime. So there was many, many, many cars upside down, burning in a big mess, and it was all full of bodies. And many of them, bodies of young people, young female, soldiers, officers, and of course, Hamas, all mixed up. And we stopped the car. We were shocked. And I told Gali, it is very dangerous. I never saw something like this in my lifetime. And then she told me something very smart. She said, no, if I would tell you about a couple, not here in Israel, not us, 10 kilometers from their kids where they have terrorists inside the house, and it is very dangerous, what would you tell them? And it was, we understood each other. And we decided to go. And we enter the road from the road south. We were the only vehicle on the road. Gadli was maneuvering between bodies. This region, at that time, 10 o'clock in the morning, was occupied by Hamas. There were no state of Israel and no IDF on that region. We were totally alone. And this was a very bad feeling. And we are maneuvering between the bodies, and then on the gate of Kibbutz Mefalsim, halfway to our son Kibbutz, there were another battle between IDF troops and terrorists. And we stopped in a shelter. And we jumped into the shelter, we waited. The fire ends, and then my dream came through. Now, in that time, we don't have any communication with Amir anymore. The electricity fell in Kibbutz Nachal Oz, and the whole communication, fell apart. And my dream comes through. There were 3 armored vehicles of Yinam, the special police force, coming to the junction. And I'm going to there, and I'm telling them, please take me to Nachal Oz with you. My son has a terrorist inside the house. And the troops, they really wanted to help me. But their commander said, no, We need I need permission, I need the orders. And this was part of the problem that day, that everybody was asking for orders, but all the headquarters fell down. Nobody to talk to. And I'm begging, and I'm not a begging guy. And then one brave soldier by the name of Avi said, I know Noam from the past, I'm going to help him. He was already wounded in the leg. We decided to leave Gali alone in the junction and to go only the two of us in my vehicle. So I'm driving the Jeep now with my pistol. Avi is with me. He's full arm, but he's wounded. And again, we are the only vehicle on the road. We are the only Israeli force. And we come to Saj Junction, where you have to go to Nahal Oz. You have to turn west to Gaza, because Nahal Oz is on the border. And there is a attack helo, Israeli attack helo in the sky. And we were afraid that if we will go, he will think that we are terrorists. And he will shoot at us. So we waited. It's about 12:15 noon time. And we waited for about 10 minutes. And then suddenly a military vehicle came with 6 officers from the paratrooper recruit training base that organized and came to help. And we asked them, what is your mission? He said, we heard that some forces near Nahal Oz need help. And we said, great, let's go together. And we are driving about 1 kilometer before Nahal Oz. This is a very sidey road between fields. We heard shooting again, and we saw on the side of the road Israeli military vehicle full of holes of bullets. On the one side, we saw 5 Israeli troops, and on the other side, we saw about 7 or 8 Hamas soldiers attacking them. So immediately we stopped and we jumped to help them. And I'm, just like a young soldier, running and jumping, and I'm lying between the Israeli troops. Immediately I saw that my pistol is useless because we were under very heavy fire. I'm checking the soldiers on my right-hand side, and all 3 of them are already dead. Chen Buchis, the deputy of Maglan unit, a brave guy from Ashdod. Iftach Yabetz, another officer from Ramat HaSharon, and Afik Rosenthal. All 3 of them are dead. And we are under very heavy fire, so I have to fight for my life and for the troops. So I did what soldiers are doing. I took the helmet and the M16 of Chen Buchis. I saw 2 terrorists on my right-hand side. I killed them. And then we killed about 7 or 8 terrorists, all of us together. The road to Nahal Oz is open. And then one officer from the paratroopers by the name of Yedidia said, I'm wounded. We check him, he got a bullet in his belly, and he is bleeding like hell. And immediately I understood that if we will not evacuate him very fast, he's going to die. So I was on a huge dilemma, what to do. I want to go to Nahal Oz. But if I will leave this guy there, he fought with me, he's going to die. So I told the paratroopers, throw all the wounded guys on my Jeep. So I got Yedidia and another 2 troops. On the first vehicle of Maglan unit who came, there were 5 people, 3 dead and 2 wounded. Later on, one of the wounded that we evacuated told me that 5 minutes before we came, he, called on the radio a voice message. He said, Buchis is dead, Yabetz is dead, Afik is dead. If you will not come in 5 minutes, there will be 5 bodies in Gaza. And I'm taking them, speeding like hell back. I'm going back to Mefalsim, to the shelter, and I'm shouting, Gali, Gali, and Gali is coming out. And I'm telling her, take them to the hospital. And she said, I will, but you go back to Nahal Oz. And she is pointing another vehicle and said, Israel, Israel, go with Israel. It seems that when I went there, another friend of mine, retired General Israel Ziv, a hero, he was my commander when I was in the paratrooper, came to rescue people. And he heard that the people need help in Mefalsim. He came to Mefalsim. On the one side of the road, on the shelter, only dead people from the party because they were hiding there and the terrorists throw grenades inside. On the other side, he met Gali, which we know. They start to understand the story, and then I came. So Gali is jumping on the road, on the jeep. She is going with wounded guys. Later on, we visited Yedidia in the hospital. His wife got birth when he was in the hospital, you know, crazy story. And he and Gali talk about this trip because he asked her, how much time to the hospital? And she said, 30 minutes. He said, I will not make it. And then my brave wife saw an ambulance on the road. She took him to the ambulance, and basically they had blood, and this is what saved his life. And she took the other 2 to Ashkelon and saved their life as well. And I want to tell you something about friendship. I opened the car, the door to Israel's car, and I said, Israel, take me to Nahal Oz. And he immediately say only one word, jump. And I said, you know, it's very, very dangerous. It's full of ambushes, you know, no troops, only Hamas. One word, jump. And we are driving just like in Lebanon. We are a team. And we are alone. On 1:15, you know, I left home 7:30 in the morning. On 1:15, we were near the gate of Kibbutz Nahal Oz, and we were the first force who came to help Kibbutz Nahal Oz on that day. Few minutes later, Israeli troops came from Maglan and Sayeret Givati and paratroopers. Basically, we divided to 2 forces. The paratroopers go and to rescue and fight on Nahal Oz post. On that day, we lost on Nahal Oz post more than 60 soldiers. We lost the female soldiers that monitor the border. And I always says, every investigation should start with those brave ladies, brave soldiers that basically saw everything. And they said, Hamas is trying and practicing to get into Israel and occupied kibbutzim. And their commanders shut them down. They didn't listen to them. And on that day, they were burned to death, and some of them were kidnapped and are still in Gaza. We should start there, every investigation. Okay. At the end of the day, the brave soldiers of Maglan, the brave soldiers of Maglan and Sayeret Givati enter with me the kibbutz. Basically, there was a very interesting story here. I was wearing a civilian and I was very afraid that, they will identify it as a terrorist and they will shoot at me. And I asked the soldiers, give me a shirt, give me a military shirt, and said, we don't have. And then one soldier said, Noam, I have a military tzitzit for you. So I said, give me. So I was entering Nahal Oz with a military tzitzit. I was honored to fight with those brave soldiers. I was not their commander, but I was their mentor. So I gave them good advices, and I basically told them, everybody that outside the houses is a terrorist. Kill him. But inside the houses, there are Israelis alive. Don't shoot into the houses. They did extraordinary work there, and we went from house to house to house to house, very carefully, very slowly. We killed more than 30 terrorists. 4:30 p.m., it was the great moment of my life. I saw my son's house, and I saw that the door is locked. Until then, I checked many houses. When the door was locked, live people. When the door was open, unfortunately, or blood, no people, or bodies. And I came from the right way with the troops. 4:30, I saw the window of the armor room. I knock on the window and I said, Amir, the Abba, it's dead. And then I heard from inside, my 4-year-old granddaughter Galia said, Saba ba, Grandpa is here. And this was the great moment of my life. But in the middle, we were still in the middle of the battle. So it took us until midnight to kill all the terrorists, to clear the kibbutz, and to evacuate more than 400 live people from kibbutz Nahal Oz to a safe place. And if there is something which first of all, I want to give all the credit to what happened to in kibbutz Nahal Oz, to the brave soldiers of Yamas, Mishmar HaGvul, who fought with the people inside the kibbutz, Kitat HaKonenut from the kibbutz, the citizens which are fought on their houses, and of course to Maglan and Sayeret Givati. They did a remarkable job. But I was so proud on one thing. On that dark day, everyone that Gali and I met on our journey to kibbutz Nahal Oz, we saved their life.
What a remarkable story in your personal, I guess, life also has a happy ending, but so sad for so many others and the country. And I got to say, your heroism, and don't want to go into ageism here, but you, Israel Ziv, in your 60s, create a platoon, go in and fight. But someone asked me outside, and I can't see with those spotlights, and Alan also said the strongest military in the Middle East, one of the strongest militaries in the world, and you said you trusted the military so much. I know there's going to be an investigation committee. I know, we can talk about some failure here and there, but what the hell happened? How did we let October 7th happen?
This is a great question and a very painful question. On October 8th in the morning, when I woke up, basically I told two things. October 7 is the biggest failure in the history of the state of Israel. It never happened before. And everybody that is in charge of this failure, all the leadership of the IDF, all the leadership of the Shabak, and all the government on Israel, and first of all, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister, need to go away. They are responsible to this failure. But to answer your questions, I would like to take you to a phone call that was happened on Saturday, 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning, between the Chief of Staff, Herzi Halevi, the head of the Shabak, Ronen Bar, and the Southern Command Commander, Yaron Finkelman. And basically, we had all those alerts from those mobile phones of the terrorists. And if I would wake up each one of you, which are not professionals, in the middle of the night, and I will tell you, there is a huge alert from Gaza. The default, the answer from all of you, I would guess, will be, you know, this is alarming, be ready. Something is going to happen. This is basic. You don't need to be a general to understand it. And I did not get any answer yet why they didn't put all the forces on alert. All the forces on the border, all the tanks, all the soldiers, one phone call to the Air Force commander, send helos, send jets. And I think that if they would do this, the outcome would look totally, totally different. Still, it was a massive attack by a division, 3,000 well-trained and well-equipped Hamas soldiers. But if we would act differently, the story should be totally different. And this is something which we need to understand.
And there will be a national inquiry, no doubt about it. And some started.
There is a doubt because, and this is one of the problems. We are talking a lot about Israel. This is terrible that 7 months later, we didn't even start to investigate. This is a huge mistake. It cost us life of soldiers because we are not learning the lessons. And this is not by coincidence that nobody started to investigate yet. This is a huge mistake.
Yeah, and we'll get to the leadership issues and the fact that 7.5 months later, all those that this failure is on their name are still serving, including in uniform. But I want to ask you, before we get to sort of like future questions, just looking at the war now, right? The war started 7.5 months ago with 2 war aims. One was to dismantle Hamas as a governing and a military capability, its ability to threaten Israel's security, and the second was to bring back the hostages. 7.5 months later, we see Hamas resurging in some parts of Gaza where we fought before. We have now 128 hostages, dead and alive, still in captivity. You, again, going back to you're a general. How would you judge the war's conduct so far? And can those aims, are they conflicting? Are they complementary? Where do we go from here?
I think we have 3 main goals. To bring back the hostages, this is number 1. Number 2, yes, to replace Hamas in controlling Gaza. And number 3, to bring back home all the kibbutzim, moshavim, Shderot who live along the border, which they deserve to come back home secure. Unfortunately, we are running this war only with military operation, but to win a war, you need two strong legs, one military and one strategic, led by the government. Unfortunately, because of political issues and that Netanyahu is really rely on the most extreme parties of Ben Gvir and Smotrich, the government never really had a strategic discussion. You talk here a lot about the day after, you know. Your organization already discussed the day after, but the state of Israel, the government of Israel, didn't. And this is a huge mistake, and this is influencing the war. And that's why right now I cannot say that we are winning the war. Basically, what I feel that we are entering a huge swamp. And we have the history of swamp. I served more than 20 years in Lebanon. And we are doing the same mistakes right now in Gaza.
So essentially an attrition war. You know, what you just said now is sort of what last week Minister of Defense Gallant finally said. Some people would say too little, too late, but he finally came out and said, right, basically that the military instrument has to be coupled by a diplomatic, political one. Gantz yesterday said something along these lines as well. The failure to discuss day after makes us lose the war. They both they had verbal gymnastics, only not to say Palestinian Authority, two states, West Bank, any of that, as if it's not related. But you mentioned the need to replace Hamas, and sort of what's your vision for day after in Gaza, if you've articulated one?
I think that there is a very good plan on the table right now, led by President Biden. And it is very important for me to say here, from the deep of my heart, thank you to the American people for the help and the support. And thank you, President Biden, for standing with us from day one, sending the Navy, helping us with ammunition. This is very unusual, and I highly, highly appreciate it. I think that the Biden plan is basically a very good point to start the discussion. And basically this plan is talking about replacing Hamas with a moderate forces. And I'm not talking about Abu Mazen, because Abu Mazen, in my eyes, just like Benjamin Netanyahu, belong to the past. He is not a real leader. But moderate forces, maybe, you know, from the Palestinian police or whatever, they will control Gaza. We will evacuate the forces of Hamas from Gaza because we cannot live near them. We will solve the issue of the refugees. And the most important issue, we will solve the issue of the Israeli hostages. This is for Gaza. In Lebanon, which we have a huge problem with Hezbollah, and I highly believe that one day we will have to clean Lebanon again. But right now, it can be a solution to move them backward. To start the discussion about what's going on in the West Bank, because right now I don't think the Israeli public opinion is ready to talk about two-state solution, but we will create a foundation to do something in the future. And more than all, we will create a strategic relationship between Israel and Saudi Arabia and the United States and the moderate countries. I think this is a holistic solution that can be a good start. I don't agree with every detail of this plan, but I think this is a very good start, and I think that the Israeli government should start and deal with this plan as the solution for this regional conflict, because at the end of the day, we need good friends in the world, and we need good friends in the region against the extremists of Iran, Hamas, and Hezbollah.
Thank you. We can go into a long conversation about that, and I think at IPF we agree with you that Abu Mazen does not serve his people right as an effective leadership, but the Palestinian Authority is an institution, and the Fatah party, because when we say it's not going to be Hamastan or Fatahstan, which Netanyahu loves saying, it's a two-party system. There's no the environmental party in Gaza. So, it's pick your poison, right? And we don't have many choices, but we agree with you that political leadership is needed on the other side. And I'm pretty sure you're going to say that it's also needed on our side.
Of course. I think that today, and basically this is my opinion, we don't have the right leadership to win this war. We don't have the right leadership to bring back the hostages. And we don't have the right leadership to solve all our security problems. And that's why I believe that we should find a way to go to an election and give the Israeli people the mandate to decide who they want to be their leaders, to take us out of this big hole that we are right now fell after October 7.
Okay, so really two quick questions and not easy ones. We're hearing all this chatter about Benny Gantz thinking he's going to be the next prime minister, and Naftali Bennett and Yossi Cohen, former head of Mossad. There's a lot of people standing on the side waiting for elections. And can you do you have any idea of how next election going to look like and how the political scene will look like in Israel once we have elections?
First of all, we need a leadership that will unite the people of Israel, that will take all the hate that we have so deep in our society for the last few years out. I think that we need a leadership that will bring the ultra-Orthodox to serve in the military. Right now, we understand that the IDF, unfortunately, is too small for all the missions that we have on the southern front and on the northern front. Gallant says, the Ministry of Defense said that we need 10,000 more soldiers, and he's right. Basically, we need to build 3 more divisions that we can fight simultaneously in the north and in the south. And I think that if we will find the right leadership that can bring the ultra-Orthodox to serve, it will serve our whole society, economically, militarily, and our democracy. And you have to understand that we need a leadership that will go back to the roots of Zionism. And basically, our national security of the state of Israel, started by David Ben-Gurion, basically stand on 4 legs. Strong military force, strong economy, strong democracy, because we want to be part of the Western world, and a strategic relationship with the United States of America. And if you check the leadership of this government, basically they are attacking all those legs. And basically this is why the security of Israel is in such a bad situation. We need a leadership that will bring us back to the roots. We need a leadership that will bring back home the kibbutzim in the south and in the north, because this is what Zionism means, to work the land all the way to the border. And that's why I believe that we need a totally new leadership. And I believe that once we will call for election, and I hope as soon as possible, we will see new players in the arena.
So please join me in thanking Noam and Gali for your bravery and everything you've done for the state of Israel.
It was, for Gali and for myself, it is the first time that we are leaving Israel from the beginning of the war. We have a son that is serving as a medical officer in the IDF today in Gaza. And I can tell you this, we really need your help. We really need your support as ambassadors to the state of Israel. I know that you are running through a very difficult time here in the United States as well. And I highly appreciate what you're doing. So, from the deep of our hearts, Gali and myself, thank you so much for what you're doing for the state of Israel.
Wow. I can't thank you both enough for that. Thank you so much for everything you're doing. You're awesome. We are going to actually wrap up here. Alan, I did want to say one thing because I have a nickname for you, which you don't even know about. We play a lot of golf together. This does not relate to golf. But Alan, I always describe him as he is the what he just said guy. And what I mean by that is I've sat in so many meetings with him, and every time I have to follow Alan Solow, I sit there and all I want to say is what he said, because I really can't improve upon it, because you're so bright, thoughtful, poised, you're an awesome mentor, and once again, thanks for everything that you do. You're phenomenal. And thank you, everybody, for being here. I know you guys want a little bit more food. We are Jews, a lot of us in here. There's more dessert out there. I'm sure there's more stuff that I don't even know about. To the Tobon family, thank you so much. As mentioned, I met your son. He's a great man, too. And I'm so glad I had a chance to meet him. Thanks to both of you. Fantastic. So I think this brings our program to the end. Thanks again for everything that you do. And we hope to see you in future IPF programming. Thank you.